Hi, everybody. This is Jim Haviland from Impact Architects. And what I'm going to do here is just walk you through a little bit of the reasons why we do annual planning as part of our campaign to make sure that everyone's having a great annual planning session so we have a great next year together. So, annual planning is part of a set of meetings that we think you should have a steady cadence of inside your business. Now, you might have all of these meetings, but you should certainly set aside some time to uniquely look at long-term planning, especially when you're in the early stages of your business. Late stage businesses might spend more time during the year on long-range planning, but when you're a smaller business, we don't want to spend a lot of time thinking about 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. We want to set aside to a very specific time because we want to be able to get ourselves in the right mind frame, do some research for it, and really spend time on it. So we typically have a 2-day annual, 1-day quarterlies, half-day monthlies. Maybe if you're doing stuff with a board of directors or have a financial review, 90 minutes weekly, and then 15 minutes every day for the scrum. These are all the types of meetings people typically have in their disciplines around meetings. And what we're trying to do here is weekly meetings are about making sure we're executing well. Quarterly meetings are about making sure we're making progress towards our longer term goals. Those annuals, that's where we set the longer term goals. So that's the real concept here. Is we want to spend time thinking about the longer term, the bigger issues. Is our vision accurate? Is it crisp? How are we going to get there in 1 and 3 years so everyone can kind of build their plans off of that? The more time we spend doing a great job setting up during our annual, everyone will be able to participate and get there with us and be able to make decisions based on the same direction that we want to go. And that's what ultimately people really want to do. And this is part of that longer term strategy of making sure that we've been really clear about where we're headed, that where that place beyond the horizon, that purpose and the cause. Then we start to outline things as they get closer and closer. We want to have more specificity. Same thing here with annual planning. We're going to spend time thinking about that 10-year goal, those 3-year goals, those 1-year goals, and then the quarterly plan. All of that happens and gets reset in the annual. That's how we do it. And we have different needs at different places in our development. We have this model at Impact Architects we use that borrows from the hierarchy of needs, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and talks about companies going from survival through sustainable, through scalable, success, and steward. So this is really the whole life cycle of businesses as we're growing that business, going through the various types of frameworks in our minds when we think about what we're trying to do. We don't really have annual planning when we're survival mode. We're really just trying to have a great month and just stay alive. But once we get to sustainable, once we get to the place where, hey, we have a business here, we've learned some things. Now it's time to start setting our goals to building something bigger. We've arrived at something, and the same thing when we get to scalable. When we know, hey, we should make plans and be more specific about how we're going to address the market and our place in it. And then success. By the time you get to stewardship, you got a whole new thing going on. But if you're in these 3 places, you really should lean into the content we have here to make sure you're getting everything you can out of an annual planning cycle. There's also a link down here to the 90.io stages of development. They've gone much further into specificity on that stuff. They're doing great work over there. Really appreciate it. So annual planning session agendas, let's just talk about that a little bit. So we typically have a quarterly agenda. This is a very common way we look at it, where we're looking at reviewing the prior quarter, looking at visions and plans, and just making sure that we're building off of those things. We maybe learn some new tools. We figure out whether we got our rocks done or not, or set new rocks, right? That's really one of the key factors here. And then we'll solve problems. Let's get my face out of the way so you can actually see the agenda here. When we solve major issues, and that's basically a full day. That's what we do in our quarterly sessions. That's a typical agenda for a full day quarterly. And then when we get to annual sessions, a lot of the same things are in there, but we're really adding a bunch of other stuff that we wouldn't do except for once a year. Building team health, a big section in there, because we don't normally have time for this. We want to be building team health on a regular basis. We want to have that in all of our meetings where we're getting to know each other a little bit better, but we really lean into it and we try to make big steps during our annuals, especially if you're a remote team. This is a great way to make that happen. We do organizational checkup. That's like some way of figuring out whether the team's moving forward well, whether we're building the company we really want to be building. And then SWOT, or five forces. We'll talk about both of those things in another video. But having a chance to see where we fit in the marketplace. Once again, we're only going to talk about this once a year when we're in those middle stages of growth. And then eventually, but we look at the visions and plans again. This is where we actually might really spend time culling out of here things that we have to get solved. Then we go back and set the 3-year every year. We go back and set the 1 year every year. Every year we want to review these things and making sure we're making good progress. Give everybody clarity about where we're going, so that they can also participate. So they can, if we're clear and crisp about where we're going, where we think the opportunity is, then everyone can participate in that, and participate in a very deep way. So also a great resource here. If you download the thing, you can actually go look at the 9.0 annual planning brief. Some great further details there to follow along. And we also have a downloadable template if you're not using 90 for whatever reason. There's just a place to go build your agenda. We revise this every year, add some new things we've learned. And includes things like how to do it. And this is a two-day thing, so you want to figure out some things to do overnight. But it gives you a chance to think about all the things you might do. Next section, we'll talk about the team health section, which takes a bunch of time, the kinds of things you might include in there, and also some planning stuff. Thanks, everybody.